There is a big shift towards HR doing a lot of automation on their own. That scares me a little bit, David. Why do you think HR is getting into the driver's seat of automation?
Almost everything is old news. I think you could take an HR manager from General Electric in 1950 and plop them into an organization today. And then pretty soon they say, wait a minute, they've changed all the names and now I've got this computer on my desk. But frankly, it's almost all the same people, human issues.
It's kind of like you're driving a Ferrari like a Toyota Camry. You don't know that you have these gears that you can shift into and this horsepower that you could run with.
Before you'd need to go to university for 3 or 4 years. And now you can learn to use vibe coding and be effective at it in, say, 3 to 4 weeks. And everybody agrees that trust is really important, and it is really important. But trust is not a thing. That's what I want you to take away from this. If you're a fan of artificial intelligence, or if you're a fan of Wittgenstein or Roman Empire or whatever it is you're a fan of, let me know. I'm happy to listen to your thoughts.
Hey there, thanks for tuning into another episode of Joey's HR Lounge, the show where HR can feel comfortable to be themselves and learn amongst peers that are changing the game and making life better for each of us. This episode, I have a good friend and former colleague, current, I don't know, it's kind of open-ended, but maybe we'll chat about that. David Creelman, CEO of Creelman Research, based in the Toronto area, Canada. David, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, well, it's so great to have this opportunity to reconnect. So I'm glad that you're doing this series of podcasts for the HR world.
Well, you know, it's truly a pleasure and what they call a labor of love, because there are many amazing podcasts out there. But when you listen, a lot of times it just feels like a lecture. And I wanted to still have great information be shared, but just more relaxed setting. So you've already, got the collar undone. I've got, the sweater on. It's a bit more relaxed. But the information is still world class. So I would love for people to get to know you. If you want to take a couple of seconds or minutes and tell the world who you are and maybe how we met.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go back in time because this is relevant in some ways, is that I did my undergrad in chem biochem. So I've always had kind of, a secret desire towards science, which took me towards analytics and AI, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I got into the HR world, again, many decades ago with Hay Management Consultants, which doesn't even exist anymore. It's now part of Corn Ferry. And that was, compensation, competencies, that kind of thing. Then I moved on eventually to HR.com. I was actually the very first employee there. Some of you may have come across HR.com. And that moved me from the consulting world into the research world, basically content. And I got to talk to a lot of great people. I didn't talk to you, Joey, back then. You would have been too young. But I talked to a lot of people, well-known people in the world of HR back then. And then 20 odd years ago, I started my own business where I get to do some consulting, some research writing, and basically do the things that interest me. So that's kind of my background. Now, amongst those things, I've got to sit on a lot of think tanks. And I've worked with a group in Japan and a group in England and, other places as well, but the one of most note, it started off as the Kronos Workforce Institute, became the UKG Workforce Institute, and they pulled great people like Joey here onto a panel. And I was lucky enough to be there, and so that's when we met. And thumbs up to UKG for creating that opportunity to bring thought leaders, if that's not too pretentious a word, together to meet, share ideas, and have a lovely meal.
Yeah, no, those are fun times that I think of fondly, and truly was a pleasure to cross paths with you and your work and the spirited discussions that we would have about frontline workers and technology disruption, whether it was over a meal or in a boardroom. Those were some core memories. in my professional career. So super glad to have met you and glad you're on the show. So let's start with your hot take. So everyone who is on the pod, I asked them what their hot take is, just to start the show with a little spice, a little intrigue, a little excitement. And your hot take, you said that there is a big shift towards HR doing a lot of automation on their own. So not relying on IT, vendors, contractors, etc. And I travel the world a lot. I meet HR professionals and know where people are on their journey. That scares me a little bit, David. So could you unpack that a bit? Why do you think HR is getting into the driver's seat of automation, and why is it good for HR professionals out there to take the reins?
Well, but I think your attitude of fear is absolutely justified. And, I think this we are already seeing a big shift in sort of the whole nature of the job and the whole nature of how automation is approached. And, not surprisingly, AI is behind this, and in particular, AI agents. So, let's start with the hype around AI agents, which is really annoying. And what you continually hear is that, AI agents are like hiring, 5 employees who are working 24/7 for you. And people go, wow, that's super scary. Well, you don't need to be scared because it's not true. An AI agent is nothing like having an employee working for you. Doesn't mean it's not important. It doesn't mean it's not productive, but it's nothing like having a human. And so let's throw that out the window. And then you might say, well, what is it like? It's like automation. It's an automation tool. So that's kind of the starting point, is that we have a new automation tool. And let's not talk about agents. Let's just talk about using AI to support automation.
Now, and one of the reasons why that scared me is offline we were talking about Aspect 43 and the research that we get to do. But I want to share a stat that's fresh and new, and just get your take on it. 1 in 3 of our survey respondents were unsure of AI's goal. Um, could you maybe speak to the typical HR professional, or what you're seeing in your work as far as people's buy-in, agreement, confidence in HR's role in their job, and then how they can be better AI strategists or AI programmers or AI manipulators?
All right. So I think the HR has moved a long way in the past year, in that now I would say the majority of HR people are familiar. And I want to just shift the language here. We should be talking about large language models, which is a little bit more specific than AI. So most people have used large language models and use them a fair amount, things like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude. And if you're not using them, you should. And in terms of where they add value right now, is that anything to do with words or images, uh, they're really good for. And so if you're writing something, you want some feedback on what you write, you want a summarization of something somebody else wrote, uh, that's a fantastic use, and you can learn how to do that in like 3 minutes. It's also good with doing research, and that's a big change. Whereas before, you might say, yeah, I'd really like to research everything that's been said about performance management in the retail front line, but I know some of it, and we learned some stuff in school, but I'm busy. I got 50 emails to answer. Now you can use a large language model to do the deep research and give you a nice report to your specifications. You can have it focus on academics. You can have it focus on whatever. But that's another very easy, useful use. Okay, so number one, anything to do with words. Another thing, anything to do with research, really good. The most impactful use is using it as a thought partner, where you say, you know what, I'm thinking of doing this. Critique this idea, or I'm about to send this email to this employee who just hasn't been performing. Can you make sure that I'm wording this right? And um, uh, that is where it will have a bigger impact because it's not about doing the work faster, like doing a research report faster or writing something faster or summarizing something that would take you an hour to read down to 15 minutes. Uh, it's actually leading you to better decisions. And the more people use that element, the better. Uh, so those are three of the sort of immediate uses, and you can learn how to do each of these in 3 minutes. Um, and then I'll let you react to that, and then we can move on to what's next, which is where the hot take is going.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, here's the main thing about artificial intelligence, and to your point, LLMs. There's already a lot of really helpful information out there. I think the most important thing an HR professional needs is the time discipline to to say, I'm going to block out 15 minutes of my day every day to move the my learning forward, with respect to the tools that I have available to me and the tools that are out there on the horizon that I just have not engaged with yet. And I think that discipline around setting intentional growth goals for yourself, for your department, for your organization will go a long way in not only technology awareness, but AI maturity and understanding what you have available. I think that, to your point, having the tools and resources that are already embedded into most technology that's in the market right now, it's kind of like you're driving a Ferrari like a Toyota Camry,
Yeah.
and you don't know that you have these gears that you can shift into and this horsepower that you can run with, because for the average HR professional, the fires that we're putting out are payroll, benefits, data entry errors, employee relations. But how do the new tools and new realities help you do those things faster, better, stronger? That really and truly is, 5 minutes of knowledge, 5 minutes of application, and then 5 minutes of mastery. And if you do that every day, I think you can really go far. So that's my reaction.
Yeah, and I would say if the fire alarm rings now and you're to the listener and you have to run out, don't worry because you've picked up something that is so useful and so foundational to everything else we might talk about with respect to AI or technology, and you'll get that 15 minutes back. Like you do have 15 minutes. You might not, you might think you don't, but you always do have 15 minutes. And the good news is that it's not just, well, I'm going to be a smarter person because of it. No, you will get it back because the capabilities of it. You'll learn enough in 15 minutes that it'll save you 15 minutes someplace else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's kind of frame this. I mean, you have years of expertise. You've been studying HR and the future of work for decades. When you think about the conversations that we're having today in HR, could you share what feels genuinely new and then what feels like recycled ideas with better or worse branding? What are your thoughts?
Okay, well, I'm going to inevitably swing back to AI and automation, but one of the reasons for that is that almost everything is old news. Uh, there's and I think you could take an HR manager from General Electric in 1950 and plop them into an organization today, and there'd be a little bit of disorientation. And then pretty soon they say, wait a minute, this is they've changed all the names, and now I've got this computer on my desk. But frankly, it's almost all the same people, human issues. You could go back further. You could take somebody from the Roman Empire, and they'd probably say, "Heck, seen it all before." If you've been dealing with humans, uh, so just as a general comment, I would be very hesitant I wouldn't worry too much about the latest trend or the latest buzzword, with the exception of getting back to AI because that genuinely is new. And the first phase of large language models was stuff you could learn You can spend 5 minutes and learn something useful. You can spend 15 minutes a day and really move up that maturity curve very quickly.
Mhm.
Now, what's happening with automation is that we can now do a lot more automation. And there are a few ways AI agents or just LLMs in general help with that. Is that one, they can just provide you advice. You say, well, I should be able to automate this in Excel. I don't know how to do it. And it will tell you, you say, hey, but all you need to do is this. It might even, if you need to write a macro or something like that, it might say, let me write the macro for you. And you can stick that in, and oh, I don't know how to use macros. So here, let me tell you how to do it. So it could just be advice. And that's the easy thing of automation. Before you didn't have someone telling you how to do it. Now you do. Sometimes it can do it itself. Like you say, I want to, I have this data and I just need you to tell me about, is there any statistical significance between these two factors or something like that? Or can you just analyze this table for me? And sometimes it can do that kind of thing. Um, and the third thing it can do is it can help you. People have heard vibe coding, and
Mhm.
so it can teach you to actually write a program to do something. And you don't have to be a programmer, right? And this is sort of the astonishing thing is that before you'd need to go to university for 3 or 4 years, uh, and now you can learn these tools in 3 or 4 weeks. You can learn to use vibe coding and be effective at it in say 3 to 4 weeks, just to put a number on it. Um, so suddenly you have this advice, the things the AI can do just on its own. You just say, go for it. And it's helping writing you to write programs, even though you've never programmed before. Now, what that means is that automation is maybe 100 times cheaper than it was before. You don't have to hire a team to analyze everything. And this means there are a whole lot more things you can automate. Uh, and instead of automation sort of being a project the department would do, and as I say, hire a team to do it. But by the way, that stuff can still go on. I'm not saying we won't do that old style automation, but there'll be a lot of automation where it was not worth doing. The company is not going to hire a contractor for you to pull information out of your Gmail or Outlook into a spreadsheet automatically. You have to cut and paste, you're fed up with it, but no one's going to hire Deloitte or something to automate that for you. And you think, actually, with AI, I bet it can either teach me how to do it, or maybe it can do it itself. Maybe I just say, please start doing this. Or maybe I need to write some Python program or something, but that's okay because I'm a vibe coder now. And all these tiny little automations. And what where this is going is I can see as an HR professional that you start doing things, you say, hey, this is a repetitive task. I bet AI can help me automate this. It's just for me, right? I'm not talking to, looking for a budget request of something we'll implement, next year. I can do this on my own now. And it's not a big, long thing. It's something, it's a micro task. But as I go through my work, I automate this. And then a week later, I automate something else. And then I automate something else. And at some point, I think, half my job is doing the work, and the other half is doing all these little micro automations. And my skill in doing those micro automations is really powerful. Um, and so just to go on, you might think back, what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the first time I got to use a spreadsheet.
Mm.
And I realized that there are a whole lot of stuff. I mean, and if you're old enough, you remember doing stuff by hand, and you think that was nuts. I just use Excel for everything now. And I think AI will be how AI supports automation will be a little bit like that. Suddenly, you have this tool that's good for a whole lot of things. You don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to get a budget. You don't have to get approval. You just do it. And if it doesn't work, well, I'm not. I just won't do it that way. I'll do it a different way. Uh, you know, uh, but that really changes the nature of your HR work.
Well, let's take that a step further and think through the HR listener who's tuned into the show, and they're like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm
Yeah.
going to take automation in my own hands. what objections do you think they will have internally, maybe about themselves or about their capabilities? And then what objections, if any, do you think they'll face from their team or leadership? Could you speak to kind of like removing stumbling blocks from this new command that you are empowering HR to do?
Yeah, and so let's talk about the ideal scenario and what some people might do if they're not in the ideal scenario. The ideal scenario is that the head of HR will recognize, okay, we've got these powerful new tools. They're the future of HR, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a support infrastructure. By the way, that's big consultant talk, right? What I'm what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to send some of my people on training or hire in a contractor or find somebody in IT who can help us get going. And this is the difference between last year's LLMs and using LLMs for automation is that with last year's LLMs for dealing with words or research or advice, uh, you can get going in 5 minutes and you're getting value add. With automation, I used that example. Maybe you want 2 or 3 weeks of training, ideally. And if you don't have that, not everybody needs to get that training, but some people in the organization should get that training so that you turn around and you say, what the heck? What just happened here? It said module not downloaded, download Python PPTX. And they go, oh, okay, yeah, no, that's just a module here. Let me show you how to do it.
Hmm.
Right. So, and furthermore, the boss will be saying to you, this developing our internal capability to do all these micro automations is the future of HR. It's your future as a professional. I want you to invest time, and I will help you. I will support you in carving out time and making sure you have the resources. And we're going to have a coffee meeting where you get together with your peers and you share ideas. We're going to have a little contest, and whoever does the best example of an automation is going to win a free dinner. But we're going to support you with the resources you need because this is indeed harder than just asking the large language model to write a cool poem for your wife or whatever. Um, so that's the uh, ideal scenario, and that's what I would suggest HR organizations move towards. Let's build the support in, and there's a phrase people are using now called citizen developer. And a citizen developer is a citizen, which means they're an HR pro, but they've learned enough about the basics of development and automation that they're good at using these tools, and they're a resource to the other people who because they're the so-called super user. They're like the person in your department who really knows Excel inside out. So that's the ideal approach is with the support of the HR department.
Yeah. Yeah. In thinking through, the future of work, I am envisioning a world where there is either an internal IT function specifically for HR products or companies contracting with uh, firms that master HR products and the capabilities that they can use in a sort of shared service model where no different than groups that contracted with Microsoft resellers or um, other or Workday resellers or what have you, but just more of that where since the speed of technological innovation is faster, you're going to need either internal resources or a shared services outsourcing partner to help you maximize those multi-year commitments that you're having with technologies that are constantly renewing and releasing features and updates and ensuring you are getting the most of your spend. So those are my thoughts on that
Yeah,
piece.
and that ties into the non-ideal scenario where you're kind of on your own, but you think this is the future. I got to do it because I see it as a future, and I'm really excited by this. And so what I've done is actually one of my neighbors is really into this stuff. So we meet at the coffee shop. So that's he's actually a real developer, not just a citizen developer. But I've got somebody who I can go to uh, and get help whenever I'm stuck.
That's awesome.
Um, the other piece of advice is that whenever you're stuck, you just ask the LLM. So you do this. Well, how do I get started? It'll tell you how to get started. You say, wait a minute, what is this thing called terminal or command line interface? It'll tell you. Well, how do I start it? It will tell you. I did it, but this happened. Yeah, it'll tell you how to fix that. I got this error message. Oh, well, do this. So, um, a lot of the times, it's great to have a human there to help you through it, and maybe even do some of the setup for you. But so you definitely want to find that person, if at all possible. Find somebody who's ahead of the curve on this for you, who will meet with you on occasion to help you. Uh, Secondly, you'd be astonished about how helpful the LLMs are on their own. But you have to be patient because you end up asking, you run into 100 roadblocks, and it will help you over each of those roadblocks, but there are still 100 things that go wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the future of work is the current day of work. And so as much as we can have conversations like this, aspirationally, there are many leaders who are operating in this now and thriving and leading in the space. So if that's you out there, feel free to share this episode and let people know, what's working for you, so that we can all continue to learn and grow together. And, this is Joey's HR Lounge, and you're tuning in to David Creelman, CEO of Creelman Research, based in the Toronto area. With the rest of the time that we have today, David, you brought up something that I think is super important for us to always be evaluating as HR professionals: trust and psychological safety. Where do you see those being a priority for the modern HR department? And how do you ensure those are priorities for the modern executive suite?
Okay, well, I'm going to answer that a slightly different way, as I always do. The and I think what we is really important in both of those is to understand the kind of thing we're dealing with. So let's start with trust, because that's a simpler one. And you can easily get people to say, "Yeah, we got a problem with trust in this department," and uh, somebody else says, "Yeah, I don't," And by the way, I don't trust these people we've been dealing with. And somebody says, "No, I can't. I just can't trust my people with some of the stuff that I want them to do." And everybody agrees that trust is really important, and it is really important. But trust is not a thing. That's what I want you to take away from this. Trust is an umbrella name for things that have a family resemblance. And anybody who took philosophy back in undergrad will say, "Wait a minute, are you talking about Ludwig Wittgenstein, the famous philosopher?" And he said, "Yeah, that's his big insight was that we use these words like trust as if it's a thing, you know,
Yeah,
like but no, it's not a thing. It's a whole bunch of I say quite different things that have a family resemblance." And if you start trying to give everybody a course on trust, or you try to measure trust, and measuring it is where you really come face to face with what are we talking about here? Because there's the kind of situation trust where you say, I can't trust my reports. I can't trust my analyst for the numbers to be accurate. I always have to double check, and they say, well, would you leave your uh, would you trust them to take care of your dog? For Oh, absolutely. They would jump in front of a car to save my dog. They're very trustworthy. They would never lie. They're upstanding citizens. Oh, so that's quite different from, yeah, this financial analyst, always the numbers are perfect every time. I trust them to give absolute results, but I just don't trust them. I would never give them authority over, say, other people, because I just don't trust their personality. Uh, and so, what you need to do when someone says there's an issue of trust, you say, good. What that person has done is they've used an umbrella term as kind of a spotlight, and they're saying, look in that direction, right? There's something And usually trust is a relationship between two people. So they're saying, we have an issue about a relationship between two people, and maybe we have the same issue in a number of people, but let's find out what the actual issue is. And if the issue has to do with um, lack of skill or lack of discipline or something, you might say, maybe we need to think about how we're training people or who we're hiring, or maybe even our expectations on them. But we find what is the actual problem that led people to say this big thing of trust, and then address the actual problem. Don't don't try to address trust as an abstract concept.
I can see that and definitely resonate. I think about my two young daughters. I have a 7-year-old and a soon-to-be 5-year-old. And with my 7-year-old, they both take a class called socio emotional learning.
Oh my gosh, at that age?
Yeah,
Holy
yeah.
moly.
It's great. It's helping them understand, feelings and nuance and everything like that. And so if my 7-year-old is upset about something, or if I render discipline, um, it's we are able to go to a level of, you know, you are not a bad person. This is just a bad thing that happened, and we're able to isolate the issue is the issue. And in this sense, it's the person is not the issue. And so I think that resonates practically with what you're talking about with trust, in that it's not just something to carte blanche assign to a person or about a person, but peel the layer back in the workplace and say, what is it about your interaction that made you second guess your relationship with them, and then go deeper and focus on that. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and you can, by the way, with trust, you can imagine if I said, um, Bill's not trustworthy, you would think that's condemning, and he'd be so upset. If I said Bill seems to get one number wrong in the report, he would say, "Yeah, I'm not really a numbers guy," and so he's not. He admits that he's not upset about how can we fix that very specific issue.
Yeah.
And anyway, so yeah, I think your example is a good example, and it's great you just imagine a world where young people grow up being able to reason through these sort of emotional laden topics. And psychological safety is closely related. Where again, I would say, it started in analysis of very specific situations, like how a co-pilot relates to a pilot, or how a assisting surgeon relates to the surgeon, and we do much better to think about, well, what is the problem in the operating room that is in this family resemblance of psychological safety, and what is it in the cockpit, and what is it in the workplace, and what is it in the family, you know. Uh, and focus on being very clear about what the specific issue is in the specific situation.
Well, you know what? I think that this is a great place to land the show, bringing it all back to humanity in the workplace, because the technology is incredibly important and we all need to learn and grow with it together. But this is a good reminder that the people element is just as important, and that's what moves things forward along in business. So, David, it's truly been a pleasure to have you here in the lounge. Where can people find you, your work, and maybe follow up if they want
Yeah, well, David Creelman is a fairly unusual name, so you can very just Google the name, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Maybe I don't know if we're able to share the LinkedIn connection.
Oh, yeah, we'll drop it in the show notes.
We'll drop it in the show notes, and so yeah, that's probably the best way. Is just link to me on LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to talk to people. So if you've got something on your mind, if you're a fan of artificial intelligence, or if you're a fan of Wittgenstein or Roman Empire, or whatever it is you're a fan of, let me know. I'm happy to listen to your thoughts.
Awesome. Well, sign me up for coffee in Toronto next time I'm in town. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, until next time, everyone, thanks for tuning in to the lounge, and make sure that you check out joeyshrlounge.com for more episodes and to join our community where we can go deeper on topics relating to technology and AI in a safe space that is free for you to learn and grow without judgment. And we're all going to get through and grow in this digital transformation together. So make sure you check out the website, and it's in the show links if you need any more questions or guidance. And again, David, thanks for having me. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.